All right, good evening, everyone. Time is 7:04 p.m. Announced that a quorum is present and call to order this city council regular meeting. Everyone please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance, and we'll have Pastor Deshard Freeman come up and do the invocation.
Let us bow. Most holy and righteous God, we give you glory and honor for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning and carrying us through the dangers, seen and unseen. We ask that your presence would abide with us now, that you would touch and bless the city of Manor and these who have the power and position to make decisions. Allow us, Lord God, to be constantly sensitive to those who are citizens. I pray in the name of Jesus for economic development and growth, for unity and love to reign among us. It's in the strong and matchless name of Christ that I pray and ask these things by faith. Amen. And thank God.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. Thank you again, Pastor Freeman. All right, first up, we have a announcement, Hispanic Heritage Celebration. Ms. Tracy, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm up here just wanting to invite everybody out to our second annual Hispanic Heritage Celebration at Timberman Park, which is 12616 Skimmer Run. It's going to be Saturday, October 4th. The festivities will kick off at noon. We'll start off with a convocation, proclamation. We've got some great entertainment coming out. We've got mariachis coming, a panoramic dance club, our Lone Star characters that come out. They're going to do an Encanto presentation. And for the final, we're going to have Bitty Bitty Banda come out and celebrate with us in the evening. So everybody, we've got food vendors, we've got market vendors. Everybody come on out. It's a free, fun time. And we're hoping to get double the attendance than last year.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions, council members? Okay, I do want to highlight and point out on Tuesday the 23rd at Manor Elementary Early Learning Center, 12904 Greg Manor Road at 5:30. It will be the 290 Extension Project Community Listening Session, as well on Thursday, September 25th, Austin Community College, Elgin Campus, Building 1501 US 290 Elgin, Texas. 5:30 again, those two dates for the community conversation about extending Highway 290. All right. Let's jump on down to public comments. Public comments are on the non-agenda item. Public comment for white cards. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. Agenda item, public comments, yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda items and agenda items combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person, and on all items except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing must be made when the item comes before council, not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action, no discussion may be taken by city council during public comments and non-agenda items. All right, first up, let's see, we have a non-agenda item and regular agenda item topic. So, Mr. Robert, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Robert Battle. It's been a while since I've been here with you guys. I've been thrown in jail twice. Part of my bail restrictions were to stay 600 feet away from 2 of the people in this room. Those cases were completely thrown out and dismissed as a bunch of bogus baloney. I have no bail restrictions whatsoever on myself now. The one original case has been postponed for a year by Travis County. It's ridiculous. To learn more about that and other things, I would suggest you go to my Facebook page, Manor Community Coalition. And if you want to get on my secret email list, send me an email to robert@manortx.us. The reason I'm being harassed so much is because I have a newsletter that goes out to about 600 people, sometimes 200 or 300 local people, the chamber, the city council, the police department. A lot of people don't like to hear the truth. Problem is we don't really have a newspaper in this town. Newspaper is bought and sold. It's a PR rag. You'll never hear the truth there. If you would tell me when my 3 minutes is over, and I'll get to to agenda items.
Yes, sir.
3 minutes is over?
You have 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
Left.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, in the process of all this litigation and jailing, I discovered a lot of things. For one, the Travis County Central booking is such a shithole, pardon the expression, you wouldn't even put your own dogs in there. I'm going to try to get that cleaned up. Now, the Manor Municipal Court is a court of no record. I know people can't believe 2025 we still have a court where we have no recording, no stenographer, no audio recording. This is actually in 709 Texas cities. 85% of Texas towns have a court of no record. I was tossed in jail and given a bail by courts of no record. And I would challenge you, Mr. Mayor, to make sure the court of no record becomes a court of record. You could lead the state in this. My lawsuit against all of these people, I'm talking about the state, the city, the county, and about 8 people in this room, is going to the 15th Circuit of Appeals. That's because there's government actors in there. Ken Paxton is in the lawsuit, so is Secretary of State Jane Nelson. There was election coercion here. We're going to throw out that election and have a new election, I hope. And if that happens, that means most of the stuff that you guys have done over the last, 8 months since the election will be thrown out because you did not have a valid quorum. You guys standing up in court and say, well, the city council approved the election. The city council approved and certified the election. You don't get to certify yourself. This is like you guys are on all the committees now. You're on the TERS committee. The TERS committee reports to the city council, which is you. You report to yourself. Are you guys the entirety of the budget committee now? I want to know for also, why is the Manor Courts underneath the finance director? Why is there nothing for parks in the budget? We've had the same two people leading our parks committee for 3 years now. They can't put a pickleball court in. They can't even put in a ping pong court. They can't even put in one cornhole board. What happened to the Heritage and Tourism Department? Why isn't the Parks and Rec Department anywhere? 5 years later, you still can't even put in a Parks and Recreation Department, and you want to pretend you love our children? I mean, seriously. This is ridiculous. Now, we can have a great place. I'll give you another park you could put in for like under $100,000. Will Barger's Creek, by the Suicide Bridge, that bridge on Highway 290 is a death waiting to happen. But instead of fixing that, you're going to put a little pedestrian walkway over 290. That's because you value money more than human life. That could be a beautiful creek. Put some bat boxes under there. So anyway, I got a 2-week extension on my appeals case so that I can continue working to protect Manor Downs. Talk about collusion. That is one in spades. It's not just the big rig axles that got greased on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Ms. Bethany Batai.
Hello, my name is Bethany Batile.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have 3 minutes. And
I
then you have-
just
okay.
wanted to talk on some topics regarding native landscaping and how I don't understand why a place that already has perfectly good landscaping that is proven to be weather resistant against many of the obstacles here that Texas faces during its weather problems, is always overlooked when it comes to these concept designs and plans that rather look toward putting in all this new landscaping that's so young and it's not even a year old. I'm bringing this up because we are part of the monarch butterflies migration path between where they winter in Mexico and travel up to Canada, and then come back at the summer. Just about right now, they're coming back, passing through these areas and needing a lot of the local vegetation that is being demolished. They have now just recently, last December 2024, become a threatened species. That's one notch below endangered species. We're talking about something that's maybe 2 or 3 inches big, and we can't even keep it alive here in our world these days. I just want to say that any land we can find that has the criteria that these monarch butterflies require to thrive is probably as similar to our thriving and the bees that provide all the food for us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Ms. Ruth Biscoe. And you will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruth Biscoe, and my concerns are, hello everybody, how y'all doing? My concerns are, topic would be the Maynard Dams. As a child, I was born and raised here in Maynard, Texas, and been here all my life. And back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, we had to, my dad had a truck that he sold different items out of to buy property here in Maynard to have the old community center, which is on Carrie Maynard Street. And my concern is that we are talking about doing other things there. And I was sort of like trying to not have it destroyed, get something there to consider working the community for as family orientated other than industrial buildings. We lost so much after working. As a child, I worked there in the booth with my father selling stuff when we bought property over here at Carrie Maynard, and we lost that. So my main concern is saving some history here in Maynard, Texas. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we will have our public hearings. To address City Council, please complete white yellow card for that. And we have 3 public hearings tonight, City Council members. Let's see. First one is conduct a public hearing on a subdivision concept plan for Maynard Downs Industrial, being 7 lots on 146.92 acres more or less, being TCAP parcels 247,972, 247,974, 247,978, 247,986, 247,984, 247,973, 477,389, 247,991, also known as 8916 Hill Lane, Maynard, Texas. For tonight, we have 2 signed up for public comments. Mr. Robert You have 2 minutes when you.
Thank you. My name's Robert Battle. Now, sometimes public hearings, we get answers on things too. Basically, I was really disappointed at planning and zoning meeting and probably today here. Can you show us a picture of Manor Downs there? Well, I brought a picture here. It's not a tear down at all. Yeah, it needs a little work. That's basically a fantastic spot. And we should do that for a semi-pro soccer team, football, and also for music events. Mr. Jones actually said we want to tear this down, and then over here we're going to put a concert hall on parkland. If it's parkland, it's not a concert hall. My biggest question is, how could you guys approve this without a traffic impact study? You know what that is? That's developer and city council collusion. Seriously. Manor has been played by chumps by Austin. They basically gave you their warehouse park and made us pay for it. We're paying like what, 14.6 million, and plus we're going to pay them the property taxes, 100% property taxes years 1 through 3, and 50% property taxes years 4 through 13. That's in the 380 chapter agreement, man. They're basically hiding all this. This is what this should be. If they want to put a few little scrimpy warehouses, they can go north of Hill Lane. Hill Lane is our exit road for fire and for farmland. We need a buffer side of 150 feet, 200 on either side of that. Below there, guess what we need? That's where the Manor Cemetery goes. You guys are such in delusion. You don't think we need a cemetery? You've been here 5 years. You haven't thought, well, gee, we need a cemetery. This is where it needs to go. It balances out what Mr. Manor put in. He put in a cemetery at that river there, and he put a cemetery, this could be the one on the west side. And it could stay agriculture. Here's another good question. Have they been getting agriculture taxes
sir.
rollbacks?
Thank you, sir. That was 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Bethany.
Hello again, citizens of Manor. I wish more of you were here to talk about this graven injustice to the last natural land that connects to a creek in Manor, at least to my knowledge. I've found over 9 violations of the 2023 City of Manor zoning guide on their concept plan, alongside 24 different ordinances that are being completely ignored, that are Manor, Texas Code of Ordinances to help our city thrive as humans, not as vehicles or robots. I also am very disturbed to find that there are over 12 historic heritage trees. That means that they're over 150 years old. The largest being 47 inches in diameter. That provides enough tree canopy for anyone who would be walking under it. It provides what also the Code of Ordinance says, that the people of Manor are allowed to protect these trees, that especially if they have a special status, if they're in the public right-of-way, which most of these, if you look at the concept right there from right to left, that maybe acre all the way from right to left connects right to the creek, right near the highway there, and it's filled with native plants, habitat, beauty, places to get R&R from the busyness of this world that cannot be replaced with your mitigation strategy if you allow this concept plan to pass. Because a 1-year-old tree that's 4 feet tall will never replace a 150-year-old tree. There's no way, I don't see how it could ever be allowed. There are also tree protections in the ordinance that say that these heritage trees can have a chain link fence around them to protect them from these developers. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, my name is Michael Burrell, Development Services Director for the City of Manor. This is, as you are aware, the concept plan for the Manor Downs Industrial subdivision that has been contemplated through the annexation development agreements, Chapter 380 agreements, so on and so forth. It is, as it's presented, the 7 lots with industrial buildings on 6 of them, with 1 being conveyed to the city for our use. I am available for any questions that you may have, and I'll try my best to answer.
Council members, do you have any questions?
Besides the 2 comments that we heard, has anyone else reached out with any concerns about the development?
No, we haven't received any other communication.
Before you do that, Councilman Wallace, can we provide clarity on the history of the project, the timeline of why the project is in front of us today? You want to do that?
Well, as far as history of the project, of the timeline, I mean, they can't go forward with the development until this piece of it is completed.
No, I mean why it's even why we're talking about it with the city.
Well, the developer purchased the property, of course, and they were in the city of Austin, ETJ, and I approached them to see if they wanted to exit the city of Austin, ETJ, and annex into the city of Manor. And that was about almost 2 years ago now, at which point they researched it and said, yeah, if we can do certain things we would like to do, then that's a possibility. They researched those things and came back to us and made a proposition. We looked at it and said, they did the economic feasibility analysis and said, yeah, we can probably build some things there that we could build in the city of Austin too, but it would be industrial development they could do in the city of Manor rather than Austin. So we reached we looked at the economic analysis and came back to the city council, and y'all approved a 380 development agreement with them, and we reached a development agreement and a 380 agreement with them to provide them some tax abatement over time, and of course they have to do the now that has been approved, and now they are into the plat and the study. They've completed their study, and now they're coming back for the approvals that are required to get that first 849,000 square feet of industrial property zone. They've also included, for the city's benefit, the donation of that 9-acre park, and they're going to give that to the city graded flat so that we can develop it into a music venue at your discretion. And that was an extra added that they didn't have to. And so the city's benefit will be great in not just the park, but we'll get the added benefit once these buildings are built. We'll have we'll be creating jobs from the manufacturing facilities that they're going to be able to create, the buildings that they're going to put in. They're putting in some, almost at 849,000 square feet of space in the first phase, and at $100 at least per square foot, they're putting in quite a substantial investment in the city of Manor. So we'll have that space available where there's not manufacturing space available in the city of Manor now. So to the city, it was low-hanging fruit. And so that's the background and the reason that we suggested that they annex into the city.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And just to continue on that context, what it means when a land is in the ETJ of the city of Austin, and this is to answer some of the public comments that were provided. That means that what happens on that land is up to the developer in the city of Austin and the county. Has nothing to do with the city of Manor. Several years ago, when the city of Austin and other large cities petitioned the state of Texas to so that they could not be landlocked, those laws were passed, which allowed for cities like Austin to extend their ETJ out an additional set of miles, about 5 miles, because of the population they were at the time. What that means is a lot of land that historically was in Manor's ETJ, that means a lot to the community, was then lost from Manor and went into the actual city of Austin ETJ. So what that means is this property at one point in time the city of Manor had no jurisdiction over it. Any say about what could happen with that property. Since then, our team has gone out because of the history and the relationship of the property to the city and the history. We then petitioned our staff to go and have conversations with the owner and the developers to see about how to bring the property back so that we could have something that was going to be in the city of Manor that could still honor the history of Manor Downs. And that's what this deal is. It brings the property back into the city. It doesn't stop the project that they're doing, but what it does do is bring opportunities for jobs, additional ad valorem into the city. And then they so graciously, because of the value of the history of Manor Downs, have given land to the city so that the can restore something similar to in regards to a venue or a place that brings memories and opportunities for the community to connect and have fun. And so that was our effort to bring back Manor Downs into the city. And this is the deal that we were able to come up that was mutually beneficial for not only the city of Manor, but the developer, and also for, I think the utilities are still Austin Utilities. And so it's beneficial to the city of Austin. And these types of deals where are very tough to do in a lot of places, but we've been definitely blessed to be able to work with the team and their understanding and for this.
Yeah, that's well said, Mayor. And let me remind everybody that when I contacted the developer first, they were set to develop this property, and it was all going to benefit the city of Austin because, Travis County, because they were in the Austin ETJ. They were going to develop this property whenever they own the property. They were going to develop it as industrial, and they were going to end up having to develop a little more of it. It was going to be more dense than it's going to be developed now. Without the park, without the amphitheater or anything like that, it was just going to be straight industrial. They own the property. They can develop it like they want to. So we thought it was a benefit to get them into the city of Manor, where they'd be paying taxes to the city of Manor and not to Travis County. Or they could have annexed into the city of Austin and paying taxes to that city. We'd rather have the benefits here.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I just wanted to provide that context. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I can say the other thing too with the development as the cities continue to grow is that we need another east-west access into the city. And that was one of the things with the development that they were able to work with Travis County with their TIA is to get a connector up to Howard Road. And in the process too, we were able to work with the toll authority to maybe get another on and off ramp there at Howard Lane. So a lot of development is, positioning us to get another egress and ingress into the city, which has been that's missing anything north and south of 290. So I think we're in a position to try to find some traffic relief with landowners willing to work with the city. So that was beneficial to us as well.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure we provide that context. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I just want, not a question, but a comment. Just wanted to piggyback on a lot of what's already been said. This was a project of passion, of love for many of us on the council. Aaron was born and raised here as well as Ms. Briscoe, and he had very fond memories and love of what had happened around there. I grew up near and around here and had attended there with older cousins that came. And so when we saw an opportunity to bring it back into Manor, we were very excited, and we wanted a lot to be done. Even though it was Austin's ETJ, and we knew it might be a fight, and we knew there was already plans for development, maybe not what we wanted to do with it, but we saw an opportunity to bring it back into Manor and maybe work with the developers to bring back a little bit of piece of what we remember. We jumped at the chance to do that, and I just want everybody to know that it was a labor of love to bring it back in for us, and at least try to work with them and get them to commit to giving some of it back to what we remember by making the music venue here. And I just don't want you guys to think that we just let this land go and we're doing this with this. No, this was already taken away from us. And this is something that we said, hey, an opportunity, we're going to seize it. And we all felt very passionately about bringing it back. And if we can get a little piece of it, then we can do that, and we can build on the relationships and see what we can do. There's land that's near there that maybe there'll be an opportunity to get that to us as well to do more. So I just want the public to know that. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
If I may speak slightly to the more natural aspect of it with the tree counts and things of that nature, as the council may or may not be aware, we do have procedure and ordinance in place that essentially dictate you have to, any trees removed, you have to replace with the same caliper inch equivalent. To remove and not replace would either require the developer to put plantings in other parks as deemed fit by the council and or public works director, or pay a fee in lieu, which would also go into our parks fund. And none of that is actually contemplated until you get further in the process, as this is just the concept. So they don't have the ability to just outright remove anything with this. And those things will be addressed as the project progresses.
Yes, sir. All right.
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. That was my question. Thank you. Is there, since it is in the early stages, is there any option from what they've provided to save any of the ones that they had already marked as removed, like moving the building 5 feet, 10 feet, or in the space? I saw like they're keeping all the ones around the perimeter, but some of the ones in the middle, even though there's still like space. Are there options? Like, is there room for talking with you to see if there was more?
We can certainly meet with the developer to see. So there are options of relocating trees, which depending on the size of the tree and the destination can be costly. And at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to the council's discretion and what the developer is willing to negotiate with us. But there are options in place for what we could potentially do.
Since we're on the topic, can you talk a little bit about the integrity of the buildings that are on there? Because I know there was a fire there not too long ago.
That actually precedes me a bit, and I'm not the most knowledgeable, so I do apologize. I am aware that there was a fire, and it has not been in use since then, but pertaining to the actual, I guess, status of the buildings and their structural integrity, the extent of my experience with them is just driving past as I explore the city, trying to get a bit more familiar with the layout. They're empty, don't look in the greatest of shape, but I've not been inside to determine, how good of a structural state they're in, as that would likely be ill-advised since they were on fire. But
All right.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 1.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Second public hearing, conduct a public hearing on a rezoning application for one lot on 0.237 acres, more or less, and being TCAD parcel 238889, also known as 102 East Parsons Street, Maynard, Texas, from downtown business to C1 light commercial. Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you remember, but I used to start all my speeches by saying, have you guys figured out what historic district means? That's what I used to say a lot. And I tell you, it makes my skin crawl when somebody tells me that putting Maynard Downs on a warehouse is somehow bringing back a piece of history, or someone says it's a labor of love, it's a labor of love, and then they don't even deliver the baby. Okay, now this is another historic area. Now, as part of my lawsuit, I'm trying to save that little area. I call it Main Street. It's not a downtown anything. This is part of the problem with the comprehensive plan that Friesen Knuckleheads did that you guys bought into. So I wanted to find out who the owner was, and I did a Freedom of Information request, and I got back. I wanted to find out who the owner was because Travis TCAD was wrong, and the constables weren't able to serve him. And I got back a letter from the city secretary's department saying it was going to cost me, I think, $367 or something. It was going to take 11 hours for them to figure out who owns that. And then I was going to have to copy 600 pages. Whoa. That's a new way of them preventing people from getting freedom of information. Now, I appreciate somewhat that the developer has some concept a little about history,
Yeah,
but the
30
problem
seconds.
is...
30 seconds.
Pardon me?
30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The problem is really just like sticking a Band-Aid. They're trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. There is no way there's enough room on that corner to be a gas station. End of story. Anything else is just wanking off. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, this item is the second attempt at a rezoning for the Manor commercial property. They attempted once last year in December to get a C1 zoning to allow for a specific use permit in sequence after that. As we're all aware, this used to be a functioning gas station, but due to circumstances unforeseen by the owner, they were unable to continue operation for a period of 90 days, which per our ordinance removes their legal non-conforming usability for that site. So the intent with this is to get their property rezoned so they can attempt to reinstate that gas station use on the parcel.
Okay. I would recommend the same study that we had be provided on 973 in regards to capacity and need, so we can have some level of consistency in what we're asking people to do when they're talking about gas pumps.
That would be for the regular item, I'm assuming, since this is the public hearing.
But no, I'm saying it in the public hearing because.
Yes, sir.
And council members, what are y'all thoughts?
I guess for me, from watching a planning and zoning meeting, if you can talk a little bit about that left turn on Lexington and, TxDOT's approvals or whatnot.
Yes, so the biggest concerns, of course, besides the gas stations for this parcel was the ingress and egress. As we all know that both of those turns, either on Lexington or Old 20, can be tight, and there were concerns revolving around where you could turn in, where you could turn out, and what traffic controls could be in place to essentially, alleviate some of the tension with people trying to get out in ways that obviously is not doable. Christian is here. He is the applicant, and he did provide renderings for the specific use item, which was intended to go tonight but was postponed by P&Z. So it will be postponed tonight, go to them again with his updated renderings, and then brought back here. All that to say, I did not provide them in the backup for this because they were not available at the time, but there is thought and strategy being contemplated for how we can kind of direct traffic on and off of this site, including improvements to the alley, so there's an additional point that you can enter and exit.
My actual concern was the trucks that have to frequent that store for deliveries and things of that nature, causing an issue with traffic in that area. And also the tightness, even if we use the alley as a way to get out, it is tight. And we know our drivers here at Manor, and we know that they're going to try and cross traffic to get in and out of that store, when even if you provide the outgoing directions, people are still going to try and cross over. And that is a concern right there on that corner for me personally. Also, with it being TxDOT roads and the big trucks coming through, that area right there is it's just a problem for me. I know we had a gas station there, and they're talking about actually moving the pumps to the other side. All of it is still just concerning to me. And also, with that being said, because it is the Manor grocery store, I also have known people to get sick from eating outdated food there. So we need something saying that they're going to keep everything in that store up to date, and not, because a lot of our elderly are going to come from the elderly apartments to that store because it's the closest one to them. We have a lot of people that are here in wheelchairs and stuff, so that would be the easier access store for them. So we need to make sure that our people aren't going to get sick from stuff that is being provided in that store. I used to shop there, so I know that some of the stuff used to be outdated, and I've known personally people that have gotten sick from eating stuff there. So we need that to be very clear, that their stuff needs to be fresh and up to date and not brought from another store here. You understand?
Understood. Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
I just have a concern about the alleyway as well as some of the other concerns that were already mentioned. If there's a way, it's very narrow back there. I've driven it before, and so with traffic and everything, and I'm wanting to put some other amenities that I understand that you want to put back there, and the park would be there as well. If there's a possibility of first making that drivable and nice, and then also making sure that it's wide enough.
Other questions?
Have you received any other comments from the people that you had to reach out to, or for anyone concerned about this being a gas station?
Not this gas station particularly, no.
And also everyone on that block is okay with the facade change, facade upgrades.
It is
that
my
we saw.
understanding that they are, though Mr. Jones may be able to speak a bit more to that than I can.
Okay, thank you.
Council, prior to the item going before the P&Z and after December, and we did approve a downtown strategic plan, and there was a lot of things that we did. And prior to all this, you had Eric Davis and you had Bill Block. So you've had a significant investment infused into this center of the community. And prior to getting them to get the item before P&Z, we thought, what other way could you bring some investment to downtown? And we looked at facades. When you travel to other cities, small cities, you see some things that catch your eye. And traveling through Navasota and Taylor and just different cities, you see something that could really be appealing. Since we have a small block of only 6 buildings, part of the rendering is to make sure you have a consistency in appeal for the downtown. And that was part of the reason why talking to each business to get their feedback was important, and even talking to TxDOT, because TxDOT had some opposition in the past about any improvements in the right-of-way, and being able to get them to be on board with some covering of each building, and also working with them to consider a right in, right out, or another option off of Lexington. TxDOT see that we're trying to do things without being a burden to them, and we know the residents are very, they drive the way they drive, but we also try to figure out those that need these services, what could we do? And we also know that 973 bypass at some point will get built. So when that gets built, the relief of the big trucks down on Lexington and Parson will go away. But we will still have local traffic coming through the city. And so the fact that we tried to do everything to build something where everybody was on board, there may be some other improvements with the barber shop and the daiquiri shop with a covering. So if we get something on the south side of Parsons done, that may spur a few more little improvements on the buildings that are there. So just trying to make sure we connect the neighborhoods, and even down by the laundromat, there may be some other improvements that we could do further east, so that way you can have a downtown that's walkable, but also give people a chance to see that the investment made by the businesses and the city is consistent with what we want for a downtown. And I think the Bill Block and Eric Davis is a shot in the arm, and if something happens to do it, all that's going to lead to what we want, like what Elgin have, to where you can have people walking to and to and from without having to drive. And I think that's what you want in the downtown, to make it walkable with good attractions. And we know for a fact that we have 100 or 200 bicycles a weekend coming through here. Now that we got the connecting path to Austin, to Benny Fisher, we know there's an opportunity for them to frequent a nice pit stop. In talking to Mr. Dewitt a couple of months ago, he said he had a cyclist stop and use his restroom, but he only used his restroom to fill up a water bottle. And that's the option that he had. So we know that if we have something that can generate good service, good opportunity, the cyclists will more likely frequent that more so. I remember before it closed, you would see several cyclists stop there. So it's a path to where it's going to lead to a lot of good things. And we're also working, I think, on the El Camino Trail. That's going to bring some more, hopefully, popularity to downtown. So everything that we're trying to do is to make sure this part of downtown is not forgotten, because once the new town square is built, people are going to think we left. But before that takes place, let's make sure we infuse something into this part of the city, so all the residents that decide to live here can have that option that otherwise wouldn't be afforded without our support.
I mean, I agree with you in regards to having something on the corner that draws in the bike riders, and ensuring that we get a facelift down there, and create a space for walkability and small businesses. My only challenge, my only concern is, again, the feasibility in regards to making sure since we're now asking people to make a determination using numbers, quantifying the need, then I think before we do anything, we should continue that practice across the board for fairness. Two, once that's done, I think it'll show us how many cars might be going in and out over there, which will give us different, confirm that it's going to be a traffic nightmare, or disprove that it'll be a traffic nightmare. So I think getting that data would be important before moving on anything. I like the idea of the grocery store. I like the idea of some type of space for people to sit and eat. But I agree with some of my colleagues. I am just concerned about it being a gas station part, being right there, and the proximity to the inn over there. And so I think a little bit more understanding of what's going to happen down in that entire area might be necessary before. I just had those concerns there, and so I don't know, Mr. Garcia, you hear that you want to shed any light on anything, or? Thank you for being here. We've said a lot of stuff, so I don't know if you have anything that you can answer tonight, or whatever.
Hello, good evening. My name is Christian Garcia. I think right now it seems like it's a bit tight just because that metal building is there, and we do have that pumps in that corner right now with that canopy, which is, I feel like that's a very important corner. And then once we take that out, we take the current pumps that we have there with the canopy and that metal building, it will just open up the space. Also, what we want to do is, I understand that park is important to Manor, but that alleyway has so much potential, and I feel like we can work together with the city just to bring that alley to life and bring that park to life to be more used as well. So I guess once we knock out that metal building with the pumps, it just opens up the space a lot more.
Did you all already do any data on kind of like traffic, or well, not necessarily traffic, just kind of, I know your business, so you ran some kind of numbers to determine the feasibility for a gas station there. Do you have any of that information?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay.
Not at the moment.
I have one question for you. Is the gas station the make or break it for you guys? Is that like a
According,
solid?
yes, yes, ma'am. To my own, to the client, to the owners, yes, it is. Yes.
Thank you.
And council, one thing I would like to also add is last year we went through the process of trying to acquire 3 lots behind the Relax Inn, and I know that was always a concern with off-street parking. So we were committed to make an investment before this group brought this plan back to us. So if people were to park and have an extended stay at the grocery store, that was always going to be an option. The 3 lots that we were going to buy directly next to the art park would be that overflow, so that way anything that's happening downtown that's more than 30 minutes, people would know that would be an option that all the businesses could direct their patrons that were going to be more than 10 minutes. So that way it would allow the convenience to still be a convenience, and those that have extended stops would be able to have that option for overflow parking.
When can we get those numbers about traffic flow?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
When can we get those numbers about traffic count?
I want to say maybe before the next meeting, which I think is October, like the first. Yes.
And will you guys be offering any jobs for the local community?
Yes. So, what we presented in December, I'm not sure if you guys saw that. Technically, that December project was, it wasn't. This one, we're trying to either work with HEB or work as well with a local coffee shop and open a coffee shop, and because we have space in the back too, facing the park. So mothers, kids want to, take the kids out to the park, go to their local coffee shop and grab a coffee while they see their kids play. So it's all we're all open to it. Yes.
Sorry, I have another question.
No, you're
Mr.
good.
Garcia. Have you thought about, or is there an option in your vision about making a pickup spot, like people could maybe like how HEB and Walmart have that call ahead, have someone get the groceries together, and then we just drive up and pick up?
So that's another concept that we have, and it'll be in the back, facing the park. So we have technically space there for maybe 2-3 parkings, and then it will be a pickup. It all depends on what the city is working with us, or what exactly it is that you guys prefer per se. But yes, that's another option that we did have. I think in one of the renderings that I did have it for pickup only, working with either HEB or Walmart. But we have not touched that until we get more like a green light, or with the whole project itself, so we could get HEB or Walmart in it for pickup.
Yeah, that leads into my other question. I was just going to say, have you thought of partnering with any other grocery stores to address the concerns also of like that Councilwoman Wallace had about being able to rotate and keep fresh foods and meats and stuff like that in there? Have you thought about building a relationship with any of the grocers to?
The biggest one that we thought about was HEB, because it's everybody knows HEB. So yes, that's another for fresh produce. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
I have one question, or sorry, 2. One, for the gas, would it also include diesel at the pumps?
I'm sorry?
Would it include diesel gas?
As of right now, no. It'll just be just regular gas.
Okay. And then the developer people, have they created something similar to this before? Just an idea of like creating a gas station / grocery store, seating area in a space this size or something similar, or is this like a first time? Like, is there a project that's already been created before that we could look at to see how it's operated, or would this be like something new?
Here in Manor, or
anywhere?
I have
maybe other projects that they've done before, or that you guys have done before.
I could present some to the yes, but in the city of Houston, that's where normally. So every time I come over here, it's
a very high traffic place, so that works out for us. We have that. I mean, I feel like Lexington and Preston is similar when it comes to traffic. But okay, I think that would help me, because I do see it as a very tight space, and for the in and out, especially well, luckily since if there's no diesel at the pump, there's certain car sizes that may not come to actually get gas, but they still could come there for shopping of their needs. And the size of the vehicle, we have a lot of diesel trucks around here and 350s and stuff. But just to be able to have a sense of how practical it is in that space.
Just another thing that we want to bring up as well, since I think in December what we presented was 3 or 4 pumps. This one we're bringing it to 2, so we're more independent. So we could provide a contract with the gas provider, which will be the smaller trucks, not the 18-wheelers, come over here and fill up the tanks. So that's something that, since it's going to be an independent gas station, that we could provide a contract with that. So the time-wise of when they come and fill up the tanks and not bring the 18-wheelers, it'll be the smaller tanks to fill up.
I also have a concern with there's telephone poles in that alleyway.
Correct.
So getting that stuff moved in order to open up that alleyway is also important, because one of the poles is already leaning.
There's, like I said, there's a lot of potential back there, and I feel like working with the city and working with us, it's that entire block. I feel like we could do something good with it.
And Council, I think to that point, Councilman Wallace, about the poles, if we look at what's been done by Bill Block on the east side and the west side of Lexington, there were some older poles. And with that project, that investment, that was one of the upgrades that I think Blue Bonnet required, is to make sure all the poles were upgraded, because it was to make another $4 million investment with old infrastructure was not going to be a good look. And that'd be the same, I think, on the alley. If there's some things that need to be upgraded, working with Blue Bonnet, more likely we'll go ahead and get everything to be up to good standards for them, as well as the development.
Our main concern is safety first.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions, council members?
I have a question for Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Is this considered, I know it's famous, but does this have any historical landmark designation on it? So you have to keep a facade or anything?
Officially?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, good. And is there already like an architectural aesthetic guideline? I guess since it, like Mr. Moore was saying, it will be like the beginning of the revamping and the remodeling of this area. Is there already aesthetics or the kind of specs that are?
So we do have masonry requirements for this area of Manor that dictate a certain % of masonry on your primary facade as well as your sides, but we can certainly work with them to achieve that more rustic feel as it was upon initial construction, if the developer is open to it, of course. But that would be specifically handled through the specific use permit and the site plan and building permit, not the zoning.
Right. Okay. Because it's already been here, they would kind of be grandfathered into whatever we've already had, like you said. Just the regular requirements of what the facade has to be with the masonry.
So they wouldn't be grandfathered because they've lost their new legal non-conforming status. They would have to conform with what we have currently. But in this area, we have specifically the masonry requirements to kind of enhance the Old Town Manor look.
Okay.
Or at least attempt to.
All right. Do you remember? Okay, never mind. I'll ask. Okay. I wanted to know how long ago did we have those requirements? Like, are they new? Are they 1985?
Are you talking about the historic district requirements currently?
Yes, that we had for our historic district. Do you know the last time we've updated those?
2017.
2017? Okay. Oh.
How often do those get updated?
The building, well, specifically for the historic district, I don't think they have been updated much. Sections of our ordinance have, of course, changed over time as legislation has been altered. And if I'm not mistaken, and you'll have to correct me because I was still in high school at the time at 2017, but the historic district designation that allows for masonry, that came sort of after municipalities were no longer allowed to dictate building materials. So that was kind of our way to reclaim at least a portion of that in the older part of town. Just had to make sure I had my history correct there.
All right. Was there a motion?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 2.
A motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, conduct a public hearing on a specific use permit for one lot on 0.237 acres more or less for Travis County TCAD parcel 238889, also known as 100 or 102 East Parsons Street, Million, Texas, from downtown business to C1 commercial lot. Yes, sir, Mr. Robert.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing, and we haven't seen one picture at all. At Planning and Zoning, they had a presentation, showed a few interesting things. In their presentation, they seem to act like they're going to talk everybody into putting an awning around there. Well, those are just kind of empty words, you know. I want you to feel part and welcome into the community, but, you know, we need to, like, focus on what's happening. The main problem is that these people up here, this is what they want. This is what you guys want for that historic area. This was in the comprehensive plan. They paid $360,000 or something for that. So they don't want you there. That's why they can't do anything at Art Park. Art Park is a parking lot. It's been a parking lot
Mr.
with
Bataille.
road dirt and
Mr.
trash.
Bataille.
Pardon me?
You have to address us, not the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
Here's the TERS map. You guys say our whole city's blighted. I thought it was a regional leader. Which is it, blighted or is it a regional leader? I'm not sure why you guys, you know, Manor is funky. That metal building is our funkiness. If we lose our funkiness, we have nothing. You understand? Manor's history is its rural, small town, funky history. Someday, maybe you guys can put James B. Manor on the webpage for Manor history. As far as Art Park goes, I had the the painter that did a mural of Harriet Tubman there, ready to put a mural of Harriet Tubman in the Art Park there. That would bring 10,000 people a year just to take a selfie. And why did you guys turn that down? Why? You can answer that, you know. I say, you know, anyway. To be continued.
Thank you, sir. All right. Yes, sir. Come on.
Mayor, Council, this item was actually postponed by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting last week, so the recommendation is to leave the public hearing for this item open until the second council meeting in October so that the Planning and Zoning Commission can hear this again.
Yes, sir. And will y'all make sure to pass on the information about the the traffic stuff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we leave open the public hearing for item number 3 until the October 15th, 2025 meeting.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Ware. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. City Council will now move on to the consent agenda items. All items on the consent agenda considered to be self-explanatory by council. We'll be enacting one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by a mayor or council member, in which the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Number 4, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve the city council minutes. 5, consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the August 2025 city council monthly reports. 6, consideration, discussion, possible action on accepting the August 2025 departmental reports. And consideration, discussion, possible action regarding a resolution authorize the city manager to execute documents as necessary to execute the city council's approval to opt into Purdue Pharma LP and Cycle Family opioid settlement. Any items, council members, that you wanted to pull from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving right along to number 8, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a subdivision concept plan for Maynard Downs Industrial, being 7 lots on 146.92 acres more or less, being TCAD parcels 247,972, 247,974, 247,987, 247,986, 247,984, 247,973, 447,389, 247,991, also known as 8916 Hill Lane, Maynard, Texas. Any questions or additional comments, council? I'll entertain a question or a motion.
I just wanted to ask, it's a question comment, that you will consider, or you may consider, working with the people to see about like those trees to see if they are willing to save a few, if it's possible to save some of the heritage trees.
Certainly. We can have a conversation with the developer about their options in terms of tree mitigation ratios and whether or not they can replace, relocate, or whatever is physically possible.
Okay, thanks.
Also, to that concern, if there could be a possible place, maybe in some open space on their area, that they could put some of the natural vegetation for our area there to enhance animal whatever, like the monarch butterflies, like maybe create a little,
Like a preserve of some sort?
yeah, something
We
like
can
that.
certainly suggest it, yes.
Thank you.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the subdivision concept plan for Maynard Downs Industrial, being 7 lots on 146.920 acres more or less, and being TCAD parcels 247,972, 247,974, 247,987, 247,986, 247,984, 247,973, 477,389, 247,991, also known as 8916 Hill Lane, Maynard, Texas.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 9. First reading, consideration, discussion, possible action regarding the ordinance for 1 lot on 0.2376 acres more or less, and being TCAD parcel 2388889, also known as 100-200 East Parsons Street, Maynard, Texas, from DB, downtown business, to C1, light commercial. Council members, this one has a 3-4 vote in planning, so needs a supermajority, or you can't do it. Huh?
We no longer have to subscribe to supermajority votes
Okay,
based on new state statute.
gotcha.
The asterisk from legal, yes.
Thank you much.
Did you still want us to try to get the data for
Yes.
this item or specifically for the SUP?
What's up, council members? Do you want to just bring both back, or you want to do one and do the other one? Whatever
we
you
bring-
decide, we
Oh.
entertain the motion or a question.
Oh, it's a comment. Can we bring both back with our motion at the same time?
You have to do this one item at a time.
Yes.
So it's in your motion. Yeah.
To Michael, I need to ask Mike the question about if you bring them both back, the second item won't come to October 15th. And so this item, because it already went to P&Z, this item wouldn't go back to P&Z. So that's, and the motion, you can either accept it or get the data, but either way, we're going to get the data to be able to complement the SUP, because I think that's going
I can explain the timeline, if you will. If this item is effectively postponed, it would have to come back after P&Z, as Mr. Moore said. So the first reading for this would come back on October 15th. The SUP would then have to come back in the first meeting in November because it doesn't have 2 readings. It only has 1. And you have to have your zoning finalized before you can approve an SUP.
So I think what you all, before you go, I think what you all maybe should do is give them what your staff recommendation is, based off of what you've heard that council would like to do and the questions that they have. I think maybe giving a recommendation of how to move forward with the data piece and all those kind of things, and what they could do today or not do today that will keep the process moving on.
How would I word that?
Mayor, council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. The recommendation is, since this is first reading, you can actually make a motion to approve a first reading with the understanding that you would like to have this information provided to you before second reading. And approving a first reading is just that you're continuing the process, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to approve it at second reading, depending on the information that you get. Or again, you can postpone, and like Mr. Burrow has already mentioned, then it would come back to you after P&Z meets, so it would come back to you until the 15th.
Does that answer or provide clarification? So in regards to the two, one is already, we already have direction on that one. But this particular one doesn't, a vote tonight for that does not negate all of those requests. You can continue the process, and if you don't like what's happening, or you can't get the answers, or it can't be resolved, then at the second reading, is where you will force your opinion with your vote. Make sense?
Is that why the public hearing is still open? How come we didn't take
Public hearing is still open for the next item.
The SUP's public hearing is open. The zoning public hearing was closed. We've been kind of bunching the two together with all the questions, but they are separate items.
So is there a motion to move forward with the first reading?
Do we have to put in all of the stuff that we asked for in the motion?
You can, if you'd like to make a motion to approve, you can include and with the developer bringing back the information that you requested during the public hearing.
Anyone can motion what your preference is, and then we settle it out with a vote. So what I'm hearing is there's an option to move forward with voting for the first reading, as it is just it's the process. It doesn't lock in anything. It's just the process because it has two readings. Voting for the first reading with direction that was given during the public hearing. That is option. That's one option that's on the table. The other option is to push this back as well, which will push the entire process back, going from starting in October and then going into November months. Is that correct?
I believe there may be an additional option. The second reading doesn't necessarily have to occur at the first meeting in October, correct? We can have it come back the same time as the SUP. So we could also do that. That way you still hear them at the same time for your second reading of the zoning and then your SUP on the 15th. That would allow you to, if you so choose, approve it, the first reading today, have it come back.
Yeah, that's the first one I'm saying. I'm talking about the second option, which was council members not taking action on it at all and postponing that.
Yes, sir.
Then that will push the entire thing into November. So those are you all's options, unless there's another Q&A or comment or question.
Okay, my question, it's a Q&A, is changing it, going from downtown business to light commercial, does that change what you were saying before about the materials, the facade for that area?
No. Oh, well, yes, my apologies.
Okay.
There's a lower requirement. C1 would have a lower requirement for masonry.
Okay. And the gas station portion of it is what changes it from downtown business to light commercial?
Yes, in order to do the gas station, they have to be at minimum C1, then apply for a specific use permit.
Okay.
Questions or a motion?
Can we put it in there that they have to have a higher standard?
Again, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. In order to put in any information on masonry, again, because of the state statute, that's why you have a historic district setting, because you can require masonry there. But if you're going to go higher, then you'd need to have a higher zoning category and then only allow for that one specific use if you wanted to do that, so that you would still stay with that masonry requirement. Or what you can also do is enter into a development agreement as well with regard to masonry. But again, it would also depend on what else, the give and take between the developer and the city.
And just for clarification, approving the first reading has no bearing on that. Approving.
Saying that's all stuff that we can clarify during the second when it comes back.
That's true. So it's all about, do you want to start it later, or do you want to keep moving and get the answers get the answers in the 15th, by the 15th, to make a decision. Okay, I'll ask one more time for a motion, and then no motion means the item does not pass.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of an ordinance for one lot on 0.2376 acres, more or less, and being TCAD parcel 23889, also known as 100 and 102 East Parsons Street, Maynard, Texas, from DB Downtown Business to C1 Light Commercial, with the provision of the direction given during the public hearing.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Ware. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Item 10 needs a motion for postponement to October 15th.
Yes, sir.
That's language is already there, so we just need someone to make that
Mayor,
motion.
Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the item number 10 until October 15th, 2025, regular council meeting.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Ware. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 11, consideration, discussion, possible action on the ordinance authorizing and allowing updated service credit for qualifying members of Texas Municipal Retirement Services of the City of Maynard, and increasing the rate of deposits to Texas Municipal systems by employees. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We are bringing to you a request to up the participation rate for our pension plan from 7% to 8%. We did do a survey, and actually it was 99.9%. I had one that didn't want to do it. But as you know, we had several new bills going in with legislature. House Bill 3161 allowed for TMRS to extend it from 7% to 8%. And so staff is requesting that we could up our percentage towards our retirement plan.
What's the current updated service credit?
So what updated service credit?
And the COLA.
So we don't get COLA.
Okay. And then what's the updated service credit?
Updated service credit, so it's going to backdate from 7% back to the day one of our retirement. And so what that cost is an additional $100,000 this year to the budget, which I've already put in budget.
Because what on the TMRS website,
I'm
it's
sorry?
showing on the TMRS website,
Mm-hmm.
it's showing no updated service credit, and it says no.
We're requesting we are getting. We've only done it once prior, the updated service credit. The last time I came to council back in 2016 in regards to changing the percentage then was from 5% to 7. And that's the only time. This will not be a reoccurring thing. That's what it's saying. It's not. It's an ad hoc. It's a one-time thing.
Okay.
It will not continue every year. It's just this one time to go back.
Okay. In the county, everyone right now is 7, and
Correct.
there's 1, 2, 3 entities that are at 6%.
So you can go down as low as 3% in TMRS. So, and like I said, this bill just came into effect. You could not, you can't even, I couldn't bring it to council until after September 1st.
Okay. So who's coming in? That's who else is bringing it to 8?
So there's been a lot of discussion with the roundtable that I'm in. Several cities are trying to go forward with it. They've just got to take it to council. Right now, off the top of my head, I'm not even sure how many. I know it was a big talk, especially with the percentage rate going up and putting the employees putting 8% in.
Yeah, because I'm looking across the state of Texas, and there are some threes, there's some fives, there's a lot of fives and sixes, but pretty much everyone in
Still
the
at
state of
7.
Texas is at 7.
Yeah, like I said, we couldn't, per TMRS, we couldn't even bring it to council until after September 1st. And it cannot go into effect until October 1st.
What's the budget impact?
The budget impact for the city was $100,000 additional to what we're already participating for this year.
What does that look at? What does that cost potentially a retirement?
So I'm not sure what you're asking.
City has a 2-to-1 matching rate.
Mm-hmm.
So as of like right now, what is our potential?
So it would depend on the personnel themselves, but when you're talking on those levels, you want to talk more like with their actuaries and such. And so unfunded right now, actuaries, we're at 85%, which is pretty good for our city and our size. You don't typically see a lot of fully funded. Really, I haven't seen any. So with our size, and what happens also is when people leave the city and they tend to cash out their retirement, they are taking the portion that was configured for the city to pay at their retirement goes back into our pot. So in the last 2 years, which it goes back at 2 years, we've had 14. So that money goes back into your unfunded. So it's not a true fact because not everybody can retire. Not everybody is going to retire with the city. And so anything that's unfunded on your actuaries will go back in.
So are we not putting the funds away when we're doing our match? Is it just?
It sits there. And so when people actually leave the city, they don't. Here's another fact as well is that if we have an employee who retires and within so many years they die, their portion, the city's portion, whatever was left in their pot, comes back to the city as well. The same thing with anybody who leaves employment. Though that fund, it's saying it goes to them, when in all actuality, it's sitting there in ours. It's going to be.
So let's just say there's 100 employees,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been here 10 years. And they've done the 7% pay-in annually, which means we're doing 2 times that, right?
Right.
So
When the retirement, only at retirement. So not, like I said, not everybody, you don't have anybody eligible. We have a few right now that are eligible. I want to say 5.
So I guess what I'm asking is, there should be a projection in regards to for our accounting of what that potential number could be. And I'm asking how much is set aside. What's the potential as it where it stands now, and then how much is set aside for that potential for that expense? Are we stacking it and saving it in an account? And if we are,
and it collects interest as well.
So what's in the account is what I'm asking.
Oh, I don't know what's in the account. I don't have access to see what's actually physically in the entire account for the city. I can request that information. They don't give us access to that because it's not a liability and it's not an asset. It's an asset to the employee.
Okay. Is it the city portion in a lump sum account? How does
Yes.
that work? Okay.
And so it sits, and it's like a 401k. It's in different dividends and different industries, and so we get money back on that along with interest every year.
And then when can we get the actual number of the projected today costs?
I can reach out tomorrow, and I'm sure Ida'll be able to get it for me. I think and Mr. Moore might have to do it, but I can get the letter for him.
Yeah, if it's a written letter, we can prepare that
Mhm.
to see if we can get a copy of that.
To see what's actually in our
Yes, sir.
funding.
Other questions, council members?
Would this be like a draw for hiring if we had to hire?
Yeah. So actually, when we moved from 5 to 7%, we saw a larger number, especially with police interest. But yes, retirement seems to. I mean, we do a lot of education with retirement here with the city. That is a big push for the HR department, is to make sure your future is secure.
When did we move from 5 to 7?
2016, and that was the
You
one
said
time we
16?
did. Mm-hmm. Right, 2016. Yes. And we did the one-time updated service credit back then too. And like I said, it's a one-time thing. We don't offer that. We don't offer COLA right now either. Which that's a big push in our HR roundtable right now, is the COLA on your retirement.
Does this increase affect our bond rating?
No. Mm-mm.
Where is it at in the, whose line item is it in the budget?
It's under every department has their own. And it depends, the percentage goes per
Every department has their own, the
line item for
100,000 is
retirement.
spent between every department.
So it goes by personnel. So PD will have a larger sum because they have more personnel. The total right now for employees is 125.
Other questions, comments? What's the average do you have the average number in regards to retirement age, or average number of years in regards to what that cost payout looks like?
So the city doesn't actually pay it. It comes from TMRS because it's already in the funding. Our average right now on retirement age has been 65 to 68. You have to have 20 years or at least 5 years of service in with the city, and 5 years is your vesting. And in the last 3 years, I've had 3 retirees, one due to medical.
And was the 5-year vesting, is that above or below the kind of area?
Is it? I'm sorry.
The 5 years vesting, is that above or below? Our 5-year vesting requirement, is it above or below what's happening in our area, in the county?
So I still So it's an average of the 5 years. Mostly, most cities are at 5 years. I don't see a lot that are still at 3 years. A lot of them actually, the state I think is at 5 as well. Is that correct?
Austin is at 5.
Mm-hmm.
5. Okay.
5 is pretty standard.
Is this one of those things that have to be approved today?
No, I mean I can bring it back. You want me to get the numbers and bring it back?
I'm just one person though. I don't. the rest
I
of
mean,
my
I'd
life,
like
but-
for it because that way we can get it started on October 1st with our first full payroll. It would be more simple with payroll and finance. It is in the budget.
I didn't hear you.
It is in the budget. Like I already we put it in budget for this year. And like I said, the additional cost throughout, like across the table, was $100,000 for this year's budget for the city.
Questions, comments, or motion? Questions, comments, or motion?
I would like, it's a comment, because the mayor asked all my questions, and Tracy, you answered them. Thank you. I think from my understanding and better understanding of it, I would like to see the numbers first. I know it may take it a tight squeeze before October 1. I would like to see those.
Okay.
Ones that the mayor was talking about that you guys.
No, yeah, no. You don't have to remember.
I'll entertain a question or motion. Last time asking.
Okay, if we postpone this, what has to be done with the budget if we don't approve it before October 1st?
Nothing actually. I mean, it'll sit. The 100,000 will sit it there, right? Mm-hmm.
Mayor, council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. If you adopt a budget that has a line item for that, if it is not used, you can then do an amendment later on in the year and move that line item for use in something else. And your finance director is here and she can confirm that or provide additional information.
Mayor and City Councilor, Belen Peña, Finance Director. The line item for that percentage is in the budget in preparation if it's approved. If it's not approved, there's no problems. But that line item is there, the 8%, in the numbers on the budget. And in each department, they have their own line item for retirement. So if you decide to approve it, we don't need to make any adjustments in the future. It's already there. If you decide not to approve it, well, we will have any extra surplus.
And I'm not sure if you guys understand, like, the city doesn't have access, like, we can't pull money from TMRS to use it for anything, you know, you can't. So it's sitting.
No, I understand that.
And same thing, like, employees can't borrow against it. It's a true pension plan. It's only, you get the city's portion if you retire fully with the city.
If the motion, or if the action was postponed, what would be the next earliest? Is it October 1, or does it have to go into the second meeting?
Yeah, I have to go in the second meeting.
Second meeting in October? Okay.
I can put it on. You'll let me. Oh, I'm sorry. My city secretary, she'll put it on the first.
Mayor Council, I would like to make a motion that we postpone item number 11, ordinance number 800, authorizing and allowing an updated service credit for qualified members of the Texas Municipal Retirement Systems (TMRS) of the City of Manor, and increasing the rate of deposits to the Texas Municipal Retirement Systems by the employees to October 1 with, do I have to say with in the information that was discussed? Okay, with the information that was discussed during. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Hill. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 12. Serious discussion, possible action on a City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer for the landmark project for an approximate 12.8371 acre tract. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is an agreement between a landmark project and the City of Manor. They're providing a $10,000 deposit for consulting fees for the project that they're currently working with the city. So this is just an acceptance of the deposit.
Questions, comments, council members? If there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Council would like to make a motion that we approve the City of Maynard, Texas deposit agreement for the proposed water service transfer for the landmark project for approximately 12.8371 acres, more or less, acre tract, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to jump to 15. That seems to be more appropriate to deal with that one before we go to actual budget and property tax rate. So item number 15 is consider discussion and possible action on a resolution adopting a contract for a purpose of financing police vehicles and upfitting.
Mayor and City Council, this is a contract for the purchase of 5 units for the police department. These were budgeted back in 23-24. They were approved, but we recently got the units delivered to the PD, and we are financing with government capital for 5 years.
This is, Chief, this is different from what we did last year.
Yes, Mayor, Council, good evening. These 5 police vehicles were ordered in the budget year 23-24. We're just now taking possession of them. So the backlog in vehicles in general, but specifically police vehicles, and then the overwhelming amount of vehicles sitting in these companies' lots that build police vehicles. They get them from Chevy or Ford or whoever we get them from, and then they roll through an assembly line to put police lights and whatnot on them. The backlog is so enormous that we've just now taken possession of those 5 vehicles. So when these were approved in 23-24, we were in the transition between finance personnel. And so I think that we have a different process in financing on the front end, any future vehicles. So these are the kind of the last ones that roll in, and then we do the financing for them.
Okay. It was approved in the 23-24 budget, but we're paying out of the current one.
We have not made any payments on them. So those payments sat in the budget and then just went back in the general fund at the end of each of the budget years.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So we'll start on out of this one.
I'm sorry?
We'll start out of this upcoming budget.
Yes, sir.
For those.
And the payment amount that was budgeted that's sitting in the current budget year, that remaining amount will just go back into the general fund.
Okay. And then the ones we did last year will be the same thing when we are taking possession of those, or we are already paying?
So y'all have completed the financing from what I understand. So once we take possession of a vehicle, one rolls off the lot, we get invoiced, we submit that invoice to government capital, and then that's whenever that payment contractually is, we would make the payment when that was due.
Okay. So that's, I'm talking for the ones from last year that we did approve last year.
The ones that we approved this current budget year at mid-year, I think we did it in February or something like January, February. I can't remember when, but
it was definitely in this calendar year.
Correct. Yes.
So those, we haven't taken those yet.
So we probably won't see those for a number of months down the road. Okay. On that purchase, we ordered some CID and some administration vehicles, which are a little bit easier to build and put out because they don't require all the caging, as much wiring and information. So sometimes we see those vehicles get produced a lot quicker, where the actual police vehicles, like if we took y'all to the manufacturer in Round Rock, which I'm happy if y'all ever want to take a field trip, it's amazing to see, but there are hundreds, if not 1,000 vehicles sitting in a parking lot waiting to just funnel through this line of this assembly line.
Okay. And then again, when we get those, we'll start paying for those.
Correct. Yeah. It's a long process.
Yeah.
So,
but those might come in this current budget cycle, and we do have that allocated, or we don't.
Correct. Yeah. Everything that we have brought to y'all so far is allocated for payments whenever they do come in.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my questions. Other questions, council members? I entertain questions or a motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-35, approving a contract for the purpose of financing police vehicles and upfitting, awarding the lease contract to Government Capital Corporation, and authorizing the city manager to execute the final contract after legal review.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Weir. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Back to 13. Consideration, discussion, possible action regarding ordinance adopting an annual budget for the ensuing fiscal year, October 1st, 2025, and ending September 30th, 2026. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. This is, we requesting the approval of the 25-26 budget, which is a balanced budget for general fund, which is $25.8 million. And as well as the utilities, which is 9.4. So we are requesting the approval.
Questions, comments, council members? While y'all are scrolling, at the last meeting, I asked about the vacancies and the newly requested positions. Was there any time and attention put to that?
Yes, they're still there in the budget. It has not been changed. But as I mentioned to you the last time, that we can make throughout the year any changes, any amendments, if you want to remove or not remove the positions that are vacant, or new ones, new requests.
Well, I think, again, the reason why I asked and why I brought it up was because I wanted us to, my question was about looking at efficiencies. If I ask for, if it's 2024 or 2023, and I ask for a position and I can't fill it, and then 1 or 2 years later, saying I still need that position, but I'm also asking for other positions, we don't, at least I have not heard in the workshops how we are, if our additional personnel needs are connected to the vacancies or not. The other thing I asked was, since we do have vacancies and haven't been filled, would it be better to just focus on the request, or look at a different type of position, or take one away and increase the pay because we're not filling vacancies?
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
so
those are some of the options that we have discussed, because it's hard to find people that they apply.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people apply, but they don't have the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, in accounting, not just anybody can apply.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And I believe the same with police department.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, we have discussed that. Maybe come later to you and request a change for the positions.
Well, and I think I was hoping to be able to actually move forward approving a budget that actually takes those things in consideration. So they're, kind of being a little bit moving kind of to a even more level of efficiencies, efficiency as an entity. Because whatever we do, if there's the determination that the cost to get this one position or this position, the pay or the hourly salaries is too low, then at this point, everything we are sort of approving after the budget is going to raise the budget. And so my intention was for us to say, okay, if let me just pull a random position, assistant building official. So if, let's say that one, well, actually, let's go with a purchasing coordinator, because that's one of the vacancies. If that one can't be filled because the salary is too low in comparison, then instead of, having, an admin assistant over here in development of services, cut that, increase the pay to get the purchasing coordinator, because the purchasing department, with all the stuff that we're asking in regards to making more contracts available, subcontracting opportunities, that might be a lot of work. So it might be worth paying for a purchasing coordinator a little bit more. So that was the intent behind why I asked if we could look at the I don't know, was that 25, 26 positions, and then say, okay, these are hard to fill. Maybe we condense some of these to up the pay so that you can get the most crucial ones filled, so that work doesn't backload. Because what council has absolutely asked the city manager to find ways that we can get more contracts out for a lot of these projects to local companies, so that the money is staying in the city. And so that's going to increase purchasing pieces. So in my mind, that makes sense to try to make sure we get a good purchasing coordinator. Same thing with the utility crewmen or whatever. If I don't know what the retention rates are, if people are coming and going. But in that particular case, if it's hard to fill one, then maybe we not do something else so the pay can go up for the entire group, so that can be filled. You know what I mean? So looking at like what is this workload that's requiring a lot of folks, and is there any way to reposition or reclassify positions or pay something more so that we can solve the problem of not filling vacancies and getting people that's going to stay?
Yeah, like in my department, I'm looking for a purchasing agent. I have received 20, 25 applicants, but they don't have the experience. So they're not purchasing agents, they're like clerks. So I need somebody that has more experience, because like right now I'm working on RFPs. That will be the job of the purchasing agent.
Yeah.
That's why, like I say, we're having a difficult time finding people that are qualified, because I'm not just gonna hire anybody, having to train that person, and then that they don't know how to do the job. So I think, I'm gonna keep on looking, but I know I will find it's like the meter readers. We took a few months, but we found 2 guys that they're perfect for the job, and they learn fast. One was already working as a meter reader in another city. So that's why I know it takes time, but we will find the right person, and I want somebody that is qualified. That way they can, help us. And I believe the other departments, that they have the same issue, that they're not finding personnel that are qualified.
Yeah. The other reason why I was asking to look for those efficiencies is because as we move forward with our plans for the bond construction, we have to start making way for a library staff and the actual facilities team that's going to maintain all the buildings. I don't recall the actual lease agreement that we're doing for the facilities over there, but I believe there's an expectation that we're maintaining and doing repairs at the facilities we're releasing for the police. And so all of that's additional staff and cost. And we're about to enter into those things now. And, if we're constantly building the personnel never goes away. And it's the larger part of the budget. And so how do we craft a path forward towards head custodian staff, custodial facilities manager, HVAC people, all that kind of stuff that's going to be necessary, roofers, electricians, all that stuff on staff to maintain the stuff we're about to build and to maintain the current stuff that we have. I'm sure we're just contracting it out, and we're about to build a whole library, and we can't just keep contracting all of those services out. So we have to look at what we really need, scale back, so that we can start making room for those pieces. And I think it was a great opportunity every time. I looked at multiple years, my whole kit of multiple years of funding I've been looking at and dropped into a spreadsheet and just kind of looking at the numbers and the increases over time. And it's not that I'm against increases. It's just how are we increasing? That's in a sustainable manner, and that's going to help us with all the stuff that's happening. So I don't want us to be over here saying we need purchasing contracts, we need RFPs, we want local businesses, we want to break that big contract down to smaller pieces, and now that's a whole bunch of work on a one-person office or two-person office, and we didn't in the budget make plans for that.
Yes, and also, like I mentioned, I want to find somebody that has experience because I want to look for grants.
Yeah,
for the
no,
city.
I'm not arguing. I'm saying
That's
we
why
need
I
it.
don't want to just hire anybody. You
No,
know?
I'm not saying we
Mhm.
don't need it. I'm saying we do need it. And I'm saying what I wanted you all to do was to look at all the vacancies and then see, do we need to raise the salary of the coordinator since it's a hard to fill? If you're if the published salary is not drawing the candidates that we need, then we might be paying too low. And so let's look at something that maybe we can go without and augment that salary and that salary scale so that we can get that position filled. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And just looking at efficiencies and those kinds of things across the entire thing. If we got stuff that's just been sitting out there for a long period of time, then maybe it's going to stay out there. So let's close that, reclassify, repurpose it, or whatever we need to do so that it's more marketable, and then we'll be able to fill it. So if they're not signed up, if they're not qualified, the pay is too low. That's probably the case, or we're not marketing well. But if you're getting 25 applications, then it's getting out, so then the pay is just too low. So what can we cut or move around with so that that pay can be what it needs to be, so that you can get the top candidate that you need? Because if you get a bad candidate, you're going to spend time nurturing that person, and that's going to take time away from you, and we're going to have a backlog in another place. And that's why I'm asking about the efficiencies in all the departments, because if we have employees that don't work as hard as other employees, right? Or we have vacancies or those kinds of things, then those types of backlogs can cause us to hire another person, or to need this type of situation, or need that type of situation. So that's why I was hoping is that y'all will come back with information on that.
Okay.
But I don't have it. Other questions, council members?
Do you know in the IT budget if there's special line items for like cybersecurity
or what?
For cybersecurity?
IT is in that department.
It is in there?
In the IT department. yes.
Okay.
Was there a specific thing you was wondering about, Councilwoman Hill? In the cybersecurity and the IT budget?
I guess I wanted to know if it was there. I was looking back to see, I guess just with the amount that's in there, it doesn't have its own line item, right? So it's just included in one of these fund control points. But I guess my concern was I've been in a lot of trainings recently, and so cybersecurity was one thing, and just having that extra booster, just kind of making sure that it was there and at the level that it needed to be. And so if there was any room or requirements to, if there's money that's needed in order to meet the standard of, I guess, what's best for our city, for our size, and for our visibility, I guess, like, you know, how vulnerable we are with it, just making sure that there was enough that was already there. But since there's something that's already there, that's fine. But then, of course, like,
Yes,
if they find, we can
Phil
amend.
Phil added some costs, some expenses there, and also TML offers free cybersecurity classes for all the employees. Actually, I think we have to take one every year. We take the class and then do a test, and that's
Yeah.
from TML.
I don't know that that's what she means. Is that what you mean? Just a class, or are you talking about do we have the necessary equipment for protecting against cyber attacks?
Yeah, also the equipment and the software.
Okay.
Actually, he implemented an additional step like 3 weeks ago, right? Yes.
I think that was part of we had a couple of incidents with emails that
Yeah, we
wasn't.
were getting a lot of
And
emails.
so he put another layer in place to make sure emails have a dual authentication process, so our messages are not being subject to some type of attack. And so the biggest thing we tell staff, don't go to sites that's not related. Don't go online shop, or don't, you know, so there's enough things in place. So if something comes, we know exactly which individual where it came in at, if there's a potential compromise, and then we can just make sure it doesn't penetrate, because again, in order for you to log on or something, it's going to require you to have dual authentication log in. But most of our jobs are web-based, but there is some sites where you have to go and navigate. But most of our stuff with our development services or any other department, finance, is pretty much in our encode, in behind our firewall. So chances of something coming in has to be clicked on or something. Then we usually have a protocol. If there's something you haven't seen, send it to IT. They look at it and they say this is not good, because it comes at you in a different way. So there's enough safeguards to where with all the emails you can kind of say this is not regular, and let IT scan it for make sure it's not it's either phishing or scam type message that comes in. So they come in, but not as high as it probably was 2 or 3 years ago. So we're still getting systems in place to kind of filter that, and sometimes we don't even see it because it just catches it before it gets to us. Mm-hmm.
Can we approve this budget with the caveat of them coming back to us with what the mayor asked for?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I said, can we approve this budget with you guys coming back to us with what the mayor asked for about the positions?
Yes, like I say, the budget is just a guide. So in the coming months, if you want to make any adjustments or remove a position that is open or a new request, we can do that. I mean, there's no issues.
I think we can also look at all the positions that have been vacant if they've been
Mhm.
more than 7, 8, 9 months. And we know we're going, like the mayor said, we're going to a phase to where we're going to require more, purchasing more something on the finance side. We can come back, because I think Tracy was going to do another market study just to make sure
Yes.
market-wise, it's been almost 3 years, just to make sure we know where numbers are at. So if something comes back higher, you have that market analysis, and if it's a higher tier, then you'll be in a position to see, okay, this position is critical, but also we'll be able to tell you how many positions have been vacant for how long. And if that's the case, do we need to do something to gain some efficiencies? And that's something we'll be able to just give you, these positions, these 9.5 positions have been vacant 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. And then we can just say, again, trying to get qualified candidates has always been a stretch for us. And so that's the struggle. But We try to, and the ones that do come on board, they've been good additions to the team, and so we just want to make sure we don't carry a savings. It look like you got a savings, and what are you doing with the savings is, and then also finding the space, having the space for the individuals so they're not working from home or remotely, which would create more of a concern for cybersecurity, because if you have to work remotely, you don't have all the things if you were inside of behind the firewall to keep all those exchanges with the server and exchanges with the actual network, so that's something we have to keep in mind if we do have to hire off in another departments to make sure we don't have anything can be compromised with that type of activity with somebody using the internet 99% of their time.
I think since it's a rough estimate, but since 2022 or 2023, we've been averaging with Avalon maybe like an additional $1 million in revenue or something like that. And again, not to be a dead horse, but at our last workshops and the last meeting, we talked about budget. There was, I gave you all the rough estimate of 2.2 million. That 2.2 million was about the cost to staff a library at about 30,000 square foot, maintenance and operation, a best practice amount for collections, database access, media, programming activities, and so forth. And so that puts us right now, if we're going every single dollar being covered or accounted for, then in 27, 28, we have the job of trying to find additional $2.2 million or more or less to kick back, to take away from out of the budget, if we're not already chipping away towards that. That's really what I'm trying to get at here. If we're going at was it 26 million this year, then the revenues at the time of operations and opening is going to have to be 28, 29 million or whatever it needs to be to also fill all the other buckets of what we're doing with dollars. If the revenue is not projected to be that high, then we'll be sitting in the budget workshop and we'll be cutting stuff so that we can get to that estimate of for staffing, library books, and those kinds of things. So I don't know how bonds work, but I'm assuming that you may or may not be able to get one set of books in the first opening and your capital outlay stuff, but then you have to have a reoccurring budget for refreshing and bringing in new titles, replacing lost stuff, and that's what that estimate covers. So the bond will cover all the other stuff, all the first equipment, chairs, the build, the computers, all the kind of stuff, but then you have to have a budget item that now is dedicated to the ongoing maintenance every single year, and that's about rough estimate of 2.2 million for the size of library that we're building. So how do we approve this budget with an understanding we approve this budget, there's an understanding that in a couple of years we're going to have to shave off $2 million, and that's a question for you all. Are y'all, everybody fine with doing that, or do we want to do savings now, chipping away now, so by the time we get to that time period, we're not realizing something that's tough, or is it going to be impactful to one or two departments? That's why I was proposing looking at the efficiencies and seeing what we really need. If you need 3 people and you decide to just get 2 or 1.5 and pay them more, and you can get the job done, then that saves some money so that we don't have to come back later on and say, we gotta, look at staffing, or we gotta cut program costs, or, I think I was looking at the multi-year, layout for, like where the biggest increases were happening over the last few years. And one of the biggest areas is, a positive, but it's streets. We went from, a little amount of money to 2.3 million, 3.7 million, 2.8 million, 2.9 million in contracted services, and I'm just picking on streets for now, just because that's about the amount of money it's going to take in a couple of years to do this whole outfit. Then we're going to turn back around and do the same thing for the rec center. Literally the next year or the year after. So, that's all I'm saying is if we continue, and this is the practice that we've been doing since I've been here, is whatever money we get, we spend it. It goes into all the buckets, and we have a balanced budget, which is always awesome. Or a couple of years we didn't have a balanced budget. We realized the negative budget because after a few months we was supposed to get this new income, and it was going to cover the negative. So a few years did not adopt a balanced budget in late 2019, 2020, around that time period. So we have to have a plan for that. So we do have, and I appreciate all the hard work, because we do have a balanced budget for now. But what's going to be our budget plan for the future? We adopt this, we're going into it knowing that we're not chiseling away dollars for the library. We're not chiseling away dollars for the city hall. Who cleans it now? You know what I mean? Who's gonna the police station when we move over there? Who's gonna clean all that? That's 2 wings. Who's gonna maintain it? Who's gonna do all that? That's a whole. I don't know. Is that even in this cost? Do we have that in here? So that's just stuff to think about. It's like we have to be thinking about those types of things. If what happens if something bad happens over there, where's our fund to go in and now replace, this or that over there? Because I did see, I didn't read all the lease, but I saw the lines that said we were responsible for repairs and whatever that we need to do over there. It's almost an as-is type thing when we take over that facility. So it would be unfair to say, hey, y'all come out of this space, come into this space, and then something breaks over there, and we're like, okay, y'all gonna have to wait, or don't occupy that wing. Go ahead and go to that wing for that. So, like, these are real type situations. Those buildings have been renovated, but they haven't been renovated in a lot of years, and so we have to have some type of pool of money that's sitting around for maintenance and operation for where we're about to take over, because it literally says, as is, there's some things that need to be done because nobody's been in there, and they already needed repairs prior to that. So y'all can talk back to me. I mean, I think we just have to have, we need to have an understanding about what we're going to do. I mean, like I said, if the staff's recommendation, if y'all's recommendation to move forward with this budget, then we're going to have to, we have to come back and talk about how we're going to have those items done. We have to look at the efficiencies, because it's the math. It will never math right in the direction we're going. We'll be good for this year. We'll have some savings here and there that will cover the repairs. We'll be able to make do, because I know that we do things conservatively. All the numbers, everybody's items is probably very conservative, and so if we have overages, it's probably already built in and those kinds of things. But that's good for now. But we're not conservative for 2 million.
All right.
Or major roof repairs, HVAC repairs, those kinds of things. So,
I would say just looking ahead and looking forward, like we talked, like you indicated, and all of us know that those needs and positions need to be added. For us is to, you know, you don't want to ever say outsource, but there's some things that you have to do with janitorial services. That may be some things we have to be thinking, do you hire full time, but you need somebody that with the experience. And for us to try to hire a maintenance staff, even when we went to look at other city halls, you have different team members that retire from a larger city to a smaller city. So we'll find ourselves as we get ready for these buildings is to try to hire somebody that retired from the city of Austin or the city of Pflugerville, and then all of a sudden you get, again, like you said, we got to make sure the team is in place because you get all these assets, and the last thing you want is to show that the upkeep doesn't look what it should be.
yeah, it's about having a plan. So it doesn't matter if we're doing personnel or contractors for this or personnel for that. It's really about having a financial path forward.
Right.
This is what we're anticipating, you know, because again, my number is my number. We need a more accurate number because I'm not a financial projector. You know, I can go and I can find best practices, and I can find, you know, examples and put those numbers together. I can also write a good description for ChatGPT and it'll tell me some numbers. But we actually need to have those numbers so that we can be projecting and planning and pulling back. And this is the same conversation we had about the bond and the capital improvement projects. Is, you know, if we're taking everything separately one at a time, we'll wake up and we'll see that we cannot do something. And we've already had that discussion because we're there in some ways or not, where we have to now use this approach to solve this problem because we invested heavily in good stuff, but we didn't have the right balance. So, yes, sir.
If I may, and Michael Burrell, Development Services Director for the City of Manor. I'm by no means a financial expert, but something that also may be worth considering, at least for the future projections of the City of Manor with our growth in expenditures, would also be our revenues. We have a lot of dirt moving on the ground currently, and we have a lot projected also. So it's worth considering that while we will have increased expenditures, we'll also have more money coming in from utility connections, your ad valorem taxes, with the certain things that are being worked on for sales tax. That's something that may also, you know, offset. And while I can't provide exact numbers, I feel like it's at least worth mentioning to also provide some sort of feedback to you, because
I take all that in consideration. Is but what I'm saying is, we've give an example, right? We did for Manor crossings. We did a 380 for that. So we have projections of what that ad valorem, that sales tax might look like for years, right? So are we looking at all of our areas and making a longitudinal financial plan so that we know, so that you can just tell me, well, Mayor Harvey, in 27, this much more money is going to be coming in. And so that'll be how we're going to be able to cover this or cover that, because we've already looked at those things. That's what I'm asking you all to do, is to connect, collaborate, and then bring back numbers and say, this is what we're seeing. Here's our projections. If valuations stay the same, tax rate stays the same, with the projects we've been doing that are coming, construction that's been made and all that kind of stuff, this is some rough estimates about what we should see, conservative number estimates, showing that, and this is how here's our plan for how we're going to take care of police building, here's our estimate for how we're going to take care of library, and then this is what we're going to be doing financial-wise or budget-wise for the rec center. That proposal is what we need to see so that we can be confident and comfortable with moving forward with not only this budget, but any budget in the future, any budget amendment, is making sure we're looking at that in context. this is not going to impact that.
Okay.
We paid plans for this, or you know what, we talked about this, and that number is coming in higher than what we projected. However, this project we just did is coming in higher than projected, so it's going to even out, or we're going to have an overage. Those are the conversations that we want to see happen.
So essentially, a
Financial
spreadsheet
roadmap.
of what are
Just
not
like you-
exclusively tax revenue, but just revenues that would be gaining.
Just
over,
like
say, 15 years.
Matt and them, just like they did for water. You know how they had the water projections of, hey, this is what the use is going to be looking like for this year, and all the way out, and then we're going to need this by that year and that year. Same thing. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
But from a financial standpoint.
This is what's coming in revenue wise, and this is how we're going to show that we're going to be able to cover those personnel expenses.
I think the question for us is when we know the build out, the permits, like the 14,000 homes that's going to be built, we know at the rate we're growing, we can put together a roadmap that Oak Grove, Monarch, New Haven, Mustang Valley, we know that they're growing at 7-8%. We need to figure out how much revenue, all that, and we need to put together the plan to say that's more staff we're going to need, but we also know that if there's a moratorium, just be real with it. That's gonna put a stop on a lot of things. But at the rate we're growing, we have to conservatively develop a plan that the build out is, 200 homes, 300 homes a year at X amount. We have to do the big formula in the spreadsheet to kind of show what our operations are going to need. Because if we're going to add 2.5 to 3 million versus operations, will we have enough generated over the 18 months, 24 months to make sure we can start putting it in the plan? And that's the information I think the council need for us to be able to provide them, which we can from development services side, water side, all the connections that's coming up. Because if there's going to be a shift, we can look at the shift on the water side. On the debt side, will water be in a position in 3 or 4 years to pay its debt from the rates that we collect that would free up the general fund from having to pay water debt? So all that's going to come into the plan to be able to show if everything is going like it should, we can make the adjustment with pushing more water debt toward the water department and then freeing up the general fund to do more of the general fund side. So that is just going to be like the so we can develop that plan based on the projected houses that come in and at the rate they're going the last 3 years, and look 3 years ahead to see where we're going to be by 27, 28. And if it's at a lower percentage, then we can conservatively start plugging in numbers. If each department asks for personnel, we might have to hold the line on some positions and start adding the positions for the new departments to operate efficiently.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a study done for departmental staffing needs, but it was based on population, not revenues. So
That's correct.
That's something we could definitely use to cross-reference as we move forward.
Yep.
Because even with that, if we use that tool and went back to project and use that as the baseline too, those numbers from that sheet will require us at this point in time with our budget to make drastic cuts so that we can be preparing for those pieces without knowing what the ad valorem and revenue streams will be. That's what it will have us doing. And so knowing that, projecting out those conservative numbers from ad valorem and the revenue streams and those kinds of things and additional taxes that we added, I think will be important for us to do so that we can make those key decisions ahead of time. My only my other question was, where is the community engagement person? Where is that position now housed? Because the personnel for budget item for community development services is 0.
We moved it to
We
parks.
split that into the marketing.
He told
person?
me it's
Huh.
in parks. I was just wondering which
in parks.
department. I couldn't remember what department that y'all moved to. Thanks.
And I would say too, Council, if there's anything as you look at it, and you see significant percentage changes, we can send us the question and we can give you the answer, so that way you know exactly, like those positions that went from community development to community engagement in parks. You might see a significant increase in the park budget, but we can be able to point that to you. It'd just be a good segue for you to ask the question. If you see $200,000 or $100,000 shift, let us know. But the most part, we try to make sure it's within reason for you to see and want to approve the budget as presented, but also if there's a significant change. And right now, I've told staff, we got less than 2 weeks left. Don't go and start spending unnecessary. We've made it 11 months and 2 weeks. We got less than 2 weeks left, and let us just finish, and then we can start afresh. And in that way, we can just make sure we have whatever is projected to carryovers, just to start the year with kind of what we projected for us to carry over. And but again, we'll come back. We'll work on the plan. So even if we have to have this conversation every quarter before we kick off budget, you can say, where are we? How is it looking? And then that way we can build on that throughout the next budget process and not miss an opportunity to explain, to see something different, to make sure the proposed budget for 26-27 will allow us to be balanced, but also set aside some actual savings for what's to come.
Yeah. I'll pause for a while, so in case y'all have questions, after I say this, 23 to 23 to 24 fiscal year will increase by 2.2 million. 24 to 25 fiscal years we increased by 2.6 million, and then from last year to now we're increasing by 3.3 million. So all I'm saying is what we need to have for the future, we've definitely been increasing for. We haven't saved anything for that. So so just kind of as y'all are doing budgets and planning, just kind of keep those things in mind, because that's what we've gone up basically 8 million since 23. 8,500,000. So that could definitely be our staffing and our teams that we need to add. So
And we've been conservative on the revenues this year because we have new retail, commercial. We know the revenues are going to increase, but they're barely, getting the sales taxes and the revenues.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that y'all not do any of that. All I'm saying is, at some point in time, all of those people are going to need to be hired, and we need to. We would like to know what the plan is before, so that we're not having to have workshops and talk about cutting stuff. Does that make sense? All right. I really am done.
So what's your recommendation?
I don't have. I talked the whole time, so.
That was going to be my question.
Questions, comments?
I agree with the discussion so far, and so I guess from my understanding and following along, I am at that part where, what is the recommendation, or what do you see that's best, or even Belen, with your expertise, what do you see that's best with after this discussion? Does that change anything?
Well, like I mentioned, the budget is just a guide. It doesn't mean that we have to spend every penny that we budgeted for. And another thing is that if we do not approve the budget tonight, we cannot approve the tax rate. So we have to approve first the budget and then the tax rate. So if we decide to make any changes for next week or before September the 30th, because that's the day that I have to send it to the county, the rates, If we don't send it by that date, they will adopt the same rate, and then if we change our mind and choose another rate, then they will have to send the bills, and they have to charge us.
And let me say, that's not what I was suggesting at all. What I am actually asking about is what we're going to be doing, what we need to do, because I was hoping that y'all brought back information so that we could talk about that and just kind of talk about having a plan forward, but that didn't happen. So like we have to have a real conversation and have a real plan moving forward, because that's going to be before us now. We've taken action, and we're planning to take additional action in the next few months. That's going to make those things a more reality. Dirt moving, public input coming, and those kinds of things. And we do not want to wait till the last minute to try to figure out how we're going to put bodies in there. Same token, we do have to have a real plan. How are we going to, take care of the lease for the police station? Can't just move from one broke thing to another broke thing.
Yes.
You got to take care of it. They're expecting it as it literally in the lease, so we have to have plans for both of those.
We are working closely with our city attorney's office to finalize that agreement, and I'm working with the city manager and with our team is assessing what we're walking into over there and how we turn a schoolhouse into a police station. And so, when we do that, we'll come to you. I do think that some of the maintenance in our agreement does fall back on the school district. So if we walk in and there's an air conditioner out, that doesn't fall on us. We call the school district and they send over their contractor to fix the air conditioner. So I think that there's some saving grace in walking into, this facility that's been sitting empty for years. So.
And we can revisit the positions that are open right now, the vacancies and the new requests, after we adopt the budget today, and look at all the positions, say, hey, this is, we can change this one, or we can upgrade this one. And like I say, not because it's in the budget means that we have to spend every penny on the budget.
Okay.
We can have another workshop.
Questions?
So definitely to confirm, the budget is balanced right now to start the new year. Okay.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 801, adopting an annual budget for the ensuing fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2025 and ending September 30th, 2026.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
The conversation that was around the vacancies, approving the budget as it is, does it approve those vacancies specifically? And I guess whatever amount was budgeted for that. So you can't go back on it and say, we don't want those positions, or you can add more because we can make amendments, right? But you can't, we're also approving those vacancies for those positions for this next fiscal year. Okay.
So we can't have an amendment to remove any of those vacancies later?
Yes, we can make an amendment. Let's say I have the purchasing. I can say, well, instead of purchasing, I need an accountant. We have done it before. I think last year, no, the year before. So we can do that. We can revisit in another meeting.
Does that put so does it leave the budget amount there? Like the budget amount can be approved as is, but the vacancies can be excluded from the budget. So as vacancies come later, you can say, we would request a vacancy. We will request a position, and then that's an amendment to the budget. But also, I guess, a request. Am I saying that right in too many words?
No, I think if we end the year with say 6 vacancies, and you requested another, 16 positions. So going into October 1, you have 22 positions. If we go forward with the plan saying which are mission critical, which ones do we need, because there may be some positions that come available due to people transferring. So that number is going to fluctuate between now and October 1 and October and January. But if we know the plan is, again, we won't add anything or make adjustments significantly until we come back to the council and say, based on what a need for contracting, we want to make sure we come to you and say, this is our plan and this is how it's going to help us. But again, we'll make sure anything that's vacant, it's budgeted. It was budgeted last year. It'll carry over because I don't anticipate us hiring anyone between now and October 1. So we know that's going to be an automatic carry for October 1 forward. But we want, again, there may be some other vacancies come up, so we can keep an eye on that. So in 3 months, we can say which position is still vacant, which would be from last year. It can be this position has been vacant for 12 months, 15 months. Again, that's something we can have that conversation so it doesn't appear we're hoarding money. We just know that's part of the carryover because we didn't have to spend it, but we can't anticipate that being the case every year. Like the mayor's saying, at some point it's going to get pretty tight, and we got to make sure as it get tight, the vacancy is going from 9, maybe 2. And if it gets down to 2, that means everything's full. And then we add positions that's going to be critical for the operations of the new facilities. And so that's where we have to every department have to be prepared to say, I'm good with what I have, because insurance for us could go from 10% to 28%, 30% as we add more people. That's a big number for us to have to try to, that contract we have to manage every year. So that piece we don't know until we get to the new fiscal year, because I think we were projected to go 20-some%, 17%, and then we're going to go back from United back to Blue Cross because they gave us a better rate. So all that comes into play when we have to evaluate that package. But we'll make sure vacancy piece or anything else related to personnel, because that's our biggest expense every year, is the bodies. And we looked at the fee schedule to try to justify adjusting our fees to pay for services. And and I think that's important. And I think one of the questions the mayor asked was neighborhoods, and is each neighborhood paying for its way, which kind of like, are we able to say Bell Farms, they collect X amount, all their needs are met, the roads are at 50%, how do we get the streets at 80 or 90%? Stonewater, Presidential, all the new subdivisions are okay, but the older subdivisions, as the mayor said, is that what's going to be the impact to keep that neighborhood at a good rate, so you don't have the complaints or concerns come in because we're growing. We forget some of the core part of the city. So all the things that was asked of us, we got to just evaluate. Are we able to have a plan to maintain at a standard that's acceptable to all of us, even the residents, but then also be able to put money aside to get ready for the new stuff.
Other questions? You good? Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the item number 14. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for the use and support of municipal government of the city of Maynard for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2025 and ending September 30th, 2026. Team, again, want to thank you all for your hard work in regards to maintaining the tax rate at 0.853, not having an increase, and taking care of our budgetary needs. Council members, are there any questions that you have, or are y'all ready for a motion?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 802, levying ad valorem taxes for the use and support of the municipal government of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2025 and ending September 30th, 2026.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
All right, second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? No questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 16, consideration, discussion, possible action regarding a bank depository services agreement with South State Bank and the City of Manor. We just need to get an extension. Is that what y'all asking for?
Yes, the agreement ends on September the 30th. And I'm working right now on RFP for Southside. That's why I'm asking for an extension of 6 months, because that's the period that it takes to work on the RFP, review everything that, the responses and the proposals.
Okay.
So I'm requesting for the expiration to be March 31st, 2026. But the RFP will, with the bank that we select, will start on March the 1st. That way we have a transaction period of 1 month from one bank to the other.
All right, it's motion on the floor.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the extension of the bank depository service agreement with South State Bank for the City of Manor as presented.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Weir. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? No questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. City Council will now reconvene. Wrong one. There we go. City Council will now convene to executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code. Time is 11:35 p.m. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Texas Government Code 551. Take action, if any, from items discussed during executive closed session. We're not going to take any action on item 17. This meeting is adjourned.